from the Hookin Hut. And tonight we are going to talk about one of the most important tools you can have in your Amigurumi toolkit, and that is stitch markers. And trust me, if you're new to this, this is going to be really, really important for you, because the wrong stitch marker can determine, well, how many times you have to keep ripping the darn thing out and starting over again. And you'll see what I mean. Because first we're going to start off with learning the different types of stitch markers and the pros and cons of each. And then finally, my little buddy Zippy here is going to help me show you some really cool ways to use your stitch markers. Now, some of you who are old hats at this, you'll probably just want to skip this video, but if you're new to Amigurumi, this really is a good one for you to watch. Okay, now, one of the types of stitch markers is the locked type. And the locked type means that I can take this, bend it down, and lock it in place. And give you an example. Yep, it's a safety pin. It's a plastic one. So you have to be careful with them because they will break. But you can just slap it on that sucker on the last stitch of your round. So you know where the next row begins, and bingo. You get it right there. So it's going to hold right there. It's not going anywhere. It's just going to stay right onto your work. Okay? Now, the pros of this thing is that it ain't going anywhere. The cons is that it's made out of plastic, and they do break. If you're careful with them, they'll last longer. If you're not careful with them, they're not going to last. Okay, now, it's true, being a safety pin, I'm sorry, I've got a cat wandering around here someplace, and it scares me to death. Okay, if you can use a metal one, a regular safety pin, but the only thing that I found with that is that when you're using them, the metal tends to get caught on the yarn sometimes. And then you can pull the strands and you can really muck up a whole project doing that. So I prefer the plastic ones, and pretty much everyone else does as well, I think. So now another version is the opened or the split ring stitch marker. And this one, as you can see right here, opens up like that. And this little fella in action, he slips straight on. Hello. Okay, he's not going to slip straight on. He's being rebellious tonight. Okay, here we go. He slips straight on, and bingo. Now we're going to look at the con of this fellow. You're working around and you're not paying any attention to anything because you got the TV going and you're watching, I don't know, Monarch of the Glen or, Midsummer Murders. And all of a sudden, you look down and oops, it's gone. Well, these, as you saw, come out really easy. And it doesn't take much. And you would think it would stay in that position as you're going around, but they don't. They do tend to move a lot. And when they move, it's just bada bing, bada bam, bada boom, he's out of there. Now, nightmare moment was last week. I was making a Yarny Monster by Amigurumi to go, and I wanted to try these out and see what they were like. And so bad time to do it because I was working on an order. So what happened was I was going around and it was gone. And I had to fight to try to figure out where on earth the beginning of that row was. So yeah, they have their place, but when you're crocheting in the round and hoping you don't lose your spot, this is not the type to use. This one, yeah, definitely this one. Now, some people like to use yarn, and they'll like wrap it around a stitch, or they'll just lay it over where the next round will begin, and then just move it along as they go. I don't like this for the same reason that I don't like this little guy. So, now, if you're super new to everything about this, and you go in and you see that, hey, that's a stitch marker. Yes, it does. It does say that it's going to be a stitch marker on the case. But what this is for is not for crochet. This is knitting and knitting only. Okay, and I'll show you why. Now they come in different sizes, all depending on the size of your knitting needle. And so they slide onto here to show the beginning of the row. And then as you work, this is um, a circular needle. As you work, goes around, and then you come up on this side, and bingo, you're at the end of the round, and you get to start over, and you just slip it over and zip, and you do it again. And that's how those work. But knitting, not amigurumi. Okay? So don't buy these. Unless you're a knitter and you're going to be knitting. Then no. Okay? So now back to this one again. Oh yeah, and there are things called novelty yarns. There's novelty yarns too, but novelty stitch markers, but they are also the lock type. They'll lock over top your stitch, so you don't have to worry about them falling off when you're working. Okay, now why are they so important? Because knitting in the round is what you do with amigurumi. Now, some people might do the join the rounds, which if you don't know what that means. That means as you're going around, like you're crocheting in the round, and you come up to this bump and you go, oh, okay, slip stitch into that first stitch, and then chain two or chain one, whatever, and just go around again for whatever you're using. You would be using a single crochet in this case because I'm making an amigurumi, but going around, and then you'll come to that first stitch and you'll slip stitch into it, chain one, and go again. But amigurumi traditionally is done working in the round, means you do not join when you get to that round. You just keep right on doing the single crochet. Then that's why having the stitch marker is so important, because after a while you're just not going to know where that row started or stopped unless you know a few tricks. And the tricks pretty much revolve around really taking a good solid look at what you're making, because that'll help you find where you started again. But I'm not going to cover that right now because this is about stitch markers. So let's look at various cool things that you can do with the stitch marker. Now, obviously, you're going to keep moving it. Every time you're doing an increase round, you're going to move it up and move it up. And then you get to this one spot where in your last increase round, you won't move it anymore. You're just going to leave it sit on that increased round. Ta-da! Okay, and then you have, let's say the pattern says you have 5 plain rounds. Well, you'll just leave this sit, and you'll go around and around and around 5 times, and you'll be able to count. And as you're going around, you can just go back and go, okay, there's the stitch marker. Where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm right here now. Okay, so this is where I'm going to go. And you'll just move the stitch marker straight up to that stitch, because it's going to be even, completely in line with the little doogie there, your stitch marker. So you'll move it up and you'll put it there, and then you're going to begin your decrease rounds to finish it off. Okay, and then once more at that point, you'll be moving it all the way up until you get to, the last part. Now that is a cool way of using your stitch marker. Now, another cool thing about the stitch marker is, let's say that the instructions say that you put the arms on starting at row 8. So we'll count. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this one's on 8. That one got off. All right, so you could put this right here. And you know how wide your arms are because you've already made the arms. And then so you measure up the arms to there. Okay, you've measured up your arms. And now you're going to put another one right there. So now you've got pretty much the width of the arms. Now you can go across to the other side and put 2 more there. And that way you can pretty much get these things even as to where they're going to be when you go to place them on. Okay? Hopefully that made sense. Is you're using them to try to even up where you're going to position your arms and stuff on your amigurumi. And you can do that for the arms, for the legs, for the ears, for all of that. Now, let's say that perhaps, let's see, the instructions say that the eyes are going to go between rows 6 and 9. Well, you know where I'm going with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to put this right here. Hello, Jeffrey. And then 7, 7, 8, 9. And I'm going to put another one right there. So now I know which rows that my eyes are going to be on. Now, if you want to, if you've got the open type, the split ring, you could use the split ring for doing this, because this isn't a life and death situation as it is when you're actually forming your amigurumi. So, hello. So anyways, but this helps you see, okay, visualize where your, gosh, I hope that was in the zone. Okay, this will help you visualize where you're going to put your eyes and the type of eyes that you're going to have, because it's going to fill this section. Now, you could just left the white, I could just left the white off of Zippy and just put in the black and left him sit there and be cross-eyed. But I put in the white just to pop his eyes out a little bit and make it cool. But I did that with the idea of where this was going to go. And then I can determine from there where my mouth will be. But everything, using these can be really good, the stitch markers, for figuring out placement of all the little body parts and getting everything evened out. Now, another thing that you can do with them as well is collar change. So let's say that you're going along and your amigurumi is going to change collars for only a certain number. Okay, let's say let's use the back of Zippy here. Let's say from here to here, you're going to have, I don't know, let's just put him white. You're going to have a big white block here because you're going to use that white block as his teeth and then run a black, thread around it or something to make it stick out like teeth or something. Okay, so let's say you're going to do that. Now, let's say that's, you've decided that it's going to go from here to here. So you can take a stitch marker. This time, let's just use the split ring. And with the split ring, let's say I'll start the white there, and then I'm going to finish the white here on this one. All right, I don't have to do any counting as I'm going around along in the round. I can know that when I get over here, oh, okay, this next stitch, which will be directly above it, I'm going to change the white. So, bingo, I can just change. I don't even have to think about it. I know once I get to this stitch marker that I change automatically to white. Ditto. And you can do that all over the place, wherever it is that you're going to have color changes happening in your crochet. You can just put stitch markers to indicate when it begins and when it ends. Now, I mean, seriously, is that cool or what? So that's it for the stitch markers. And if you guys have any other things that you've come up with for using stitch markers for and stuff, or some really good brands of stitch markers, put it in the comments below and share it with everyone who's going to be coming now and in the future, and cool stuff like that to help everyone out. And so from me, Zippy, and Jeff the cat, we'll see you later. Good night.